I am struck by the aversion to democracy, which is often voiced by members in this Parliament. It's striking. They allow themselves to issue lectures on democracy to one of the most longest-standing democracies and parliaments of the whole world. We hear this time and time again. The institutions have shown that they have an aversion to the principles of democracy. Minorities can be excluded from representation. Decision-making procedures can run their course without being supported by elected members, but rather by bureaucrats who have been elected by nobody. This is a spectre of unparalleled arrogance, and it is manifested in the resolution which the majority of the political groups from this House have compiled for this debate. Looking at this resolution, we see that it considers that Brexit is a deplorable proposition. Now, when you see exercise in democracy, which is what a referendum is par excellence, you cannot describe it as deplorable. And you cannot start issuing lectures on democracy to the British Parliament. This is deplorable. This is something which is of the greatest concern to myself and my colleagues. This applies not only to what we're living through in the context of Brexit, but much more widely to the whole history of the European Union in recent times. There are multifarious examples of the same attitude throughout the European Union, where the decisions taken by the citizens have been objected to by the institutions. It's the examples of the Netherlands, in France, and Greek citizens, where they took decisions saying no to interference on the part of Brussels. But as we all know, things went down a different course. Therefore, you may abhor the prorogation of the British Parliament, but this is done within the British law. And this Parliament has its own version of electoral results, particularly referendums. And I am concerned about the fact that freely taken decisions taken by people which don't please the institutions of the European Union can never be accepted. They have somehow to be reinterpreted in an unorthodox way so that they can ultimately be changed. The real point underlying this whole Brexit discussion is the fear of the European institutions, the clear fear, which is that the European Union might lose Britain, that Britain will leave the European Union. And this is a demonstration of the errors of the past by the European Union and the fact that it's not perfect. A country can't go its own way and aver and indeed possibly prove that it's better off outside the European Union. It's a free choice exercised by the citizens of Britain. The obligation is incumbent upon us to respect this freely made choice. We can't start undermining it. We can't espouse a position at variance with it. And we can't say that a freely taken decision by the British is not acceptable to us and is not in line with our principles. This is not acceptable. This House has to re-examine its own conscience, I argue. We have to look at the deep-seated roots which have led to decisions such as this, that citizens want to leave the European Union. A member state has said enough. They want to draw the line under a project which you think is infallible and perfect, but which they clearly see as absolutely riven with defects. Therefore, I'm concerned about what is going on. I'm concerned more about the great economic and institutional crisis in the European Union than I am about what's going on in Britain. There's an institutional crisis in the European Union across all the institutions here and within this European Parliament. The political groups are divided, absolutely fractured, and they have only just managed to cobble together a majority to put in place a Commission President-elect with no policies yet. This is not the way that we should be treating a country which has decided to go its own path, which has taken a decision through the ballot box to do this. It is not worthy of the supposedly democratic principles of this institution, which will have no future any more than the European Union will. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph Van Orden.